On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. One thing that makes this country amazing and great, one of many things that does, but it's the concept of teamwork. The concept of America stands united. The idea that a bunch of people could work together to put this flag up as a symbol of the freedom that occurred on this island, on this particular landing zone, on this particular place. And what we've got right now is against an invisible enemy, which is becoming a lot more visible these days. We have a bit of a struggle that's occurring. And there's some interesting tactics that are being used. And there's some attempts to try to see if they can bring about a negative response from the good guys, if you will, that they'll then be able to capitalize on. You also have a lot of interesting stories happening in the news that are meant to create division, fear, and continuing this general message that they've been sending us that all hope is gone and there's nowhere to go except maybe Biden, but we should vote from home for sure. But we're at a place right now as a country. We're at a place right now as people, as humanity, being asked to do the most responsible thing we can in our shoes. We have children, basically, and we're the parents, that want to misbehave, that want to do things they shouldn't, that want to eat sweets before dinner. And they don't understand or like the fact that maybe we're saying, hey, I get you, I like sweets too, but right before dinner's not the best time. There's a better way or a better time or a better approach. And I think most people are under the agreement that reform is very much a part of society. Now, I've heard a lot of people say recently that the only way that significant change in the world's ever really occurred is from war and from death. And I would say that some major changes have definitely occurred that way, and I, without a doubt, agree with that statement. But it did make me think of a number of changes that have occurred through the use of the pen. As one said, the pen is mightier than the sword. And in many cases, when you create laws, when you create people that can actually legislate and do change laws that are outdated or help restructure and reform police forces so they don't have to use horrible tactics like shoving a knee on the neck. Now, are there probably times for that? I don't know. I'm not an expert. But it does look pretty severe. And certainly for someone having a $20 counterfeit money, that was certainly beyond the call of duty, without a doubt. Now, I think 99% of police officers would completely agree with that statement. So we're at a place right now where we've got one side that's hugely trying to manipulate the message, trying to change what's happened in their minds, trying to rewrite history, trying to remove statues. And Trump, in a rather powerful speech, I might add, on the 4th of July, and I don't know if you necessarily saw it. I've listened to it twice because I woke up the following morning, and I'll be honest, I was just, I did. I listened to part of it and then fell asleep. It was nice. His voice was great. It was 42 minutes, and I probably made it about 10 minutes into it, and then dreams took me. But I've listened to it twice in full since, because a lot of people were saying it was dark and it was horrible and it was racist and all this stuff. But essentially he's calling out the deep state. He's calling out this group that seems to be pulling the puppet strings from behind the scenes, that seem to be working behind the counter. And it seems that Trump can't just come out and say, okay, it's them, and just point at the dark, deep state that's lurking. But what is happening is every time they put out a move, they're almost immediately countered. One of the funnest ones that's happened recently was Schiff coming out and saying that there was Taliban forces or Russian forces that were offering money or bribes to kill American forces in Afghanistan. Well, there's been a lot of information that's come out surrounding that whole thing. One, it's not necessarily true. Very few sources can corroborate it. They didn't consider it credible, so they never served it up to the president. Two, oddly, we find out that apparently Adam Schiff was aware of this intel back in February and supposedly did nothing with it. Now, maybe to give the guy the benefit of the doubt at the time, maybe he didn't consider it credible. But then oddly, many months later, suddenly now it's a chance to try to smear Trump. And again, makes him look bad. You had this information way before Trump did. Why didn't you act on it? You're a powerful person. You've got ties. You've got the ability to do that, but he didn't. So again, it's this constant attempt to try to smear somebody that frankly seems to be dealing with an awful lot right now. No other presidents had to deal with a pandemic on top of this attempted coup, on top of the deep state trying to start two different wars, one with Korea and one with Iran. Now they're trying to get all rustled up about Russia. And on top of that, we've got an insurgency happening in our own home state. Many would say it's dire, but what's kind of missed and what's certainly not brought up in the mainstream media, and also, by the way, Fox is very much deep state, folks. Please don't think that somehow Fox is not part of the deep state and all these other media sources are. They're all part of the deep state. Fox tends to have a little more conservative view. Their nighttime people for sure seem to be a little more on our side. The daytime people are freaking part of the deep state, 100%. That being said, the same general stories are coming out right now. Violence everywhere, right? Everywhere you look, we've got violence erupting. Now, I guess if we're going to cover that, let's jump to the actual violence scene, right? Chicago, 79 shot, 15 dead over the 4th of July weekend. Now, one of the things that is funny about this, and I think it's backfiring on the mainstream losers that are over there, is that, yeah, you're right. Violence, bad, it's scary. Oh, no, that's not good. But oddly, the places the violence is happening is the Democratic-controlled locations, the places where they've let the criminals have what they want, where they've actually stepped back and said, all right, it's your city. And because of that, now we've got mass killings, we've got property crime is up, like a lot of statistics. They keep talking about statistics. There's a lot of increased crime rates in a lot of these Baltimore, Chicago, like a lot of these areas that are predominantly left, have been democratically run forever. Their police forces are democratically run. Everything about these places are democratically run. And where is the biggest concerns of police brutality? Oddly, in these democratically run cities. So violence is on the up and up. There's no question about it. Now, another thing that's come up that's kind of interesting, and that's what I first jumped to, and I think this is very funny, but it's Tom Fitton. You guys are probably familiar with this guy in Judicial Watch. Done a lot of really, really cool stuff and has been playing a huge role in trying to make the votes turn out properly. Like he's like suing cities and stuff, saying you've got all these different registered voters on your like 1.5 times the number of people you even have in your district, right? So he's done a lot of great work and done lawsuits. But on top of that, the DC mayor, he's suing them now, the DC. I don't know if he sued the mayor. I think he sued the mayor because she did this on behalf of the city. We talked about that in the past. So he's suing her for allowing this to happen. And he asked for a permit to paint something that was positive. I don't know if they actually say in the article what he wanted to paint in there, but it was something that was a little more of a, I can't see it in here. No one is above the law. That's what it is. They wanted to put no one is above the law as the motto. And they wanted to paint that in the streets. And of course, they didn't let him. But when they decide to let another group paint their views in the street, now we've actually got a problem from the standpoint of how law works and from the standpoint of the Supreme Court. Now we're actually favoring one argument. Now we're actually favoring one group of people. Now we're actually, and you start to create a problem. And of course, once you let people start painting whatever they want on streets because they're, quote, public property, they're not really, but they are, or whatever, then you have to open it up and be fair. You have to. There's also a case, and I'm not condoning this by any means, but there was also a case recently where they had just finished a mural, Black Lives Matter mural, and apparently, and they're blaming, it wouldn't surprise me, but they're blaming some right-leaning individuals, Trump supporters, and they apparently painted over it and basically defaced this Black Lives Matter mural. Now, again, not cool. There's better ways to do change. Now, should we just start painting stuff anywhere? No, obviously, if people are saying it's okay, then sure, it's your public property and private property. I obviously live in a community where you barely can do anything. You can't even put like a flagpole on your house. You got to screw that into the outside of the building. Not allowed. It's like, oh man. And I own, it's a condo, but I own it at least. But still, it's ridiculous. So again, there's rules, apparently, with some of this junk. Something that's kind of cool, Terry Crews, he's doubling down on this little decision he's made. And I mean, I thank you. That's all I can say, because we've got a lot of people that have stepped out into the light. We have a lot of people that are supposed to be a certain way, that have stepped out and said, look, I don't fit into your mold. You don't speak for me, and I don't necessarily agree with everything you're saying. Now, just because somebody doesn't necessarily hate Trump doesn't necessarily mean that they buy every single thing that the right is selling. And likewise, for people on the left, you could support a lot of things that are on the left, but you don't have to support all of this craziness that's going on right now. And so the people that have the courage to stand up against this united front of herded opinions and actually stand and say, whoa. Let's look at what's really going on. Let's look at the facts. Let's discuss. Let's talk. Let's not just have this binary life where either A, it's this, or B, it's that. Well, it can kind of be both, actually. You're just not being very creative in your thought process. There's always a way. So, Terry Crews decides to double down a little bit. And on Saturday, he wrote on Twitter, all white people are bad. And he has a question. He's like, are all white people bad? No. Are all black people good? No. Knowing this reality, I stand on my decision to unite with good people, no matter the race, creed, or ideology. Given the number of threats against this decision, I also decided to die on this hill. It's one of those things where they say, know when to pick your battles, right? Choose your battles. This is the hill he's going to die on. This is the hill, hopefully, no pun intended. This is obviously, I hope nothing happens to him by any means. But he's making a point and standing up and making a statement, a powerful one. And he followed up with, if you are a child of God, you are my brother and sister. I have family of every race, creed, and ideology. We must ensure that Black Lives Matter doesn't morph into Black Lives Better. Now, I think all men are created equally. Do we all have the same experience in life? No. And in fact, all of us, two different people that are identical in race, color, creed, sex, and everything, you could put them in the same experience, and both of those people will experience it differently. Put them into a movie and ask them what it meant to them. Again, we're not all the same internally. We're all our own little fragile snowflakes that experience life our individual, unique way. So we're not all the same, but we're certainly all worthy of freedom. We're all equal under the eyes of God. We're all here trying to experience and do the same thing. We're all co-creating together. So I love the fact that Terry Crews has come out and said this. This is beautiful. And I just love the fact that we've got people that literally are speaking out, and he is getting just annihilated by his community, by his own people. Like me with my family. A lot of us, this is happening. But you still have to stand up for what's right. Now, another thing that's concerning, and this is the one thing, this is where I'm asking people to be mindful of what's happening right now, of one of the attempts that they're trying to do, they meaning Deep State, are trying to do, is to initiate a response. There's a couple different responses they want really badly. Just to cover them real quick. Either A, they want to figure out a way to get Trump to send troops in that are armed, and then they can easily set up people that are maybe in unique locations that are able to possibly hurt somebody with a weapon from afar, from a hidden position, and blame it on the forces. Something like that would be pretty horrible. The way that would get spun in the news, the way that would create a lot of anger. It wouldn't even have to be true, right? You could fake that, much like a lot of these, the Gulf of Tonkin, and a lot of these different things have happened in our world. I don't want to go jumping off on all the, I love all those, by the way, and I'm into many of them. I mean, again, don't get me started. But they're trying to get people to respond. So one way they want it, Trump sends in troops, something happens, we can blame the troops, boom, it's Trump's fault, he's a dictator, bam, story starts running, people start rioting and getting angrier and angrier. And the other side of it is this. where essentially you've got a bunch of people that are truly provocatively dressing, carrying weapons, and somebody on their behalf. I don't necessarily know if every one of these guys feels the same. They might. I mean, they're certainly an interesting choice that they're making. But black militants are now anti-white, anti-Jew, anti-Israel. Armed black extremists vow to take Texas as BLM protesters declare death to Israel and America. Now, if there wasn't a more heated thing you could possibly say to try to aggravate the ultra-right, I don't know what is. Right? Aren't you pretty much covering it? You're just coming in at it from the opposite direction, which again is the ultra-left and the ultra-right, basically very similar, slightly different ideologies, but very similar as far as the way they're willing to go at each other. Obviously, Texas would never allow anyone to take it. So interesting that they choose Texas. Our main office is down in Texas. I work with a lot of Texans, and you don't mess with Texas, period. You just don't. So this is a very interesting place to make this particular stand. So again, this is one of those places where we need to be smart and not fall for this. You guys want to walk around, that's great. Fantastic. The second one of you does anything wrong, your movement's toast. But this isn't something where we should fall for the crazy stuff that they're talking about. Just saying, just a warning. It's good to be prepared. You don't let them take ground per se. But just because they're out here trying to be annoying doesn't mean that we need to fall for that. We need to be bigger than that because, again, they're waiting for something to pin on the ultra-right. If you're part of that ultra-right, be smart about this. I don't know. Maybe, there's got to be a better way. But this is what they're goading. They're goading you. They're trying to get people out, and that's not okay. That's not going to help anybody. So again, this is where we've got to be smart. This is all about leading up to the election. We've got to keep them from being able to easily escalate. And right now, a lot of the escalations they're doing, people that are in the street causing riots. Now, there's protesters in some places, yes, and then there's rioters also in some places. These people need to keep standing out like they are, like the ones in Chicago by that Wendy's. There's been something like 14 deaths just in that area. Not like it's around that area. No, that street where the Wendy's is there. Literally, a car was driving through. They stopped him somehow, dancing or whatever in the road. I don't know if that's the same story, but they stopped the car, literally walked up and ended up killing a child. Killed a child. Again, this is what is happening. And we've got people that are allowing it, mayors that are allowing this. Again, it's not Trump's job to stop poor leadership in towns, in states. If a city's blowing it, then the governor needs to step in. It's not President Trump's job to come in and fix Baltimore. That's not how this works. It's not supposed to work that way. Yet they're trying to get him to do that. And Trump's like, I'm not gonna. You're just making yourselves look bad, not me. Kind of on a cool subject, and he's getting a lot of flack for this for sure. Trump's going to hold an outdoor rally, New Hampshire, outdoor. They're trying to make it like got to make sure masks are mandatory. And they are so freaking out about him wearing a mask. First off, guys, come on. First off, he's the leader of the free world. So wearing a mask is not necessarily a good idea. For Al Gore, it is because it shuts him up. But for Trump, no. I know a lot of you wish he'd shut up, but no, not a lot of you. Probably hardly any of you. Them over there. That other channel. But what's happening here is he's basically protected. The people that are close to him are tested, Secret Service tested. No one's allowed to get near the president. It's not like just people can randomly walk up to the president. It doesn't work that way. So he's very protected who's around him. And he's tested probably more than anybody. He knows what's going on, and he's well aware of some of the things that he can take. God forbid he gets it. And he might, who knows, have already had it back when he was taking the stuff back in the day, the HCQ back in the day. So who knows? But it's nice to see he's getting out there again. Now, again, something that's interesting, this is kind of back to the fear mongering to a degree. A lot more tests are being done. A lot of people are showing up with the coronavirus. So Florida tops 150,000 coronavirus cases. The main reason I wanted to point this story out, because one, they've been talking a lot about it, and it's a means to sort of really speak poorly about a group of the population, the irresponsible youth. Now, I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying they are. I think there's some irresponsible people everywhere. And I think some people are just, just don't think it matters. Don't think they're going to die. Don't think it's going to cause any problems. Don't think they're going to give it to anyone. So whatever. But what's really funny is they're talking about this incredible surge at long-term care centers. Like, look at the headlines. Florida tops 150,000 coronavirus cases. Infections surge at long-term care centers. Where was it? Right down. Where was it? Some tiny percentage. To note, around 1.3% of the state's long-term care population had tested positive for the COVID-19. 1.3%. Surge. Really? Again, the words being used in the headlines right now are amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is Trump's speech. I'll share the link. This is the end of it. Like I said, I watched it a couple times, right? Nothing new on the cue board, which is, well, nothing new on the cue board. The big point right now, the big thing that they're trying to push right now is this fear panic, this fear headlines, this fear, be scared, be scared, be scared. That's what I was actually going to show, now that I reminded myself. It's a site I like, Censored News, censored.news. Yeah, I'm not recommending it, don't know anyone on it, but it's just a very fun place that's got a lot of different sources of information. One of the things that's kind of interesting is some of the different headlines that keep getting pushed out. Beijing detains outspoken critic for alleged prostitution. Let's see, we got Beijing's motivations behind military aggression against India under close scrutiny. A lot of just kind of, right? Obviously, Charlie Daniels dying, that was a bummer. Black militants are now, very powerful statements. Corporate America now funding open terrorism across America. You see the way that the news is working this right now? Trump orders creation of American Heroes Statue Park as BLM rioters destroy statues and monuments. Now, for a lot of us, they're like, yay, cool. And then for the other side, they're like, oh, I hate you. Again, divisive. Not that it's Trump's fault. I think Trump's doing a good thing. He's trying to create the park where we can have these statues. I think that's amazing. All these other places, you want to take them down? Put votes. Vote on it. Vote on it as a community of people. And if the majority want them taken down, take them down. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't care. Taking them down the way you are, dumping them into the ocean, well, that's what you did in the Boston Tea Party. Yeah, kind of. First off, you're messing with British people's tea. You're just messing with a statue. I mean, it's not quite the same thing. But anyway, if you were throwing all the hot dogs or all the hamburgers into the harbor, oh, now we've got a problem, people. I'm just saying. So again, be aware. And just to give a scroll through for anyone that's never seen this, Lumerd, SGGT report, News Target, Children's Health Defense, Breitbart, ST stuff hits the fan. WND, End of the American Dream, Information Liberation, Liberty Headline. It's all over the place, man. It's pretty much left, right, center, all over the damn place. So it's a fun little place. Censored.news. I'm not going to put a link in there because, frankly, I don't care. I'm not plugging it. It's not my site. But again, I wanted to kind of point out sort of the game that's being played and just to help people be a little more mindful of what's going on in the world out there, to be mindful of the fact that some good things are happening. The silent majority is kind of sitting back, watching some of this happen. But the noise we're hearing, the number of people out there is not that many relative to the bigger picture. So people on the left right now have this sense of security that they're moving forward in their agenda. But what they're doing is really tainting everything about their agenda and their image and what they're really here to do. And it's also calling out the leadership on that side and showing what's drastically wrong there and how little they actually care about you, the people, but care about them, the power holders. And how it seems like, and I agree it's true, that Trump is for we, the people. And yes, is he probably going to benefit from it too? Yeah, he will. But you know what? So is all of us. Even the people on the left. We're going to benefit from it as well. It's not just him. Oh, he's just trying to get richer. Yeah, he's probably going to. He probably will end up even more wealthy after he's a president. But the rest of us should as well, are going to be in a better country and certainly going to make sure this kind of stuff doesn't ever happen again. That a truly elected president was tried to be removed from office illegally. I think treason and some other fun things are coming. Again, things are playing out. They are going to ramp up. This is all around the election. Mark that day. Start counting how many days down. Get your little countdown timers going, because that is everything. And as we get closer and closer, both sides are going to ramp up the rhetoric. Both sides are going to bolster everything. Both sides are going to stoke the flames. It's playing out exactly as it was scripted. Again, this is a show. Understand that it's playing out that way. Try really hard to not get too emotionally involved when they try to emotionally involve you. It's a tactic the left likes to use a lot. They always get triggered. They think everybody gets triggered. They keep trying to trigger people on the right, and most people on the right don't respond to triggering quite the same way as people on the left. So they can't figure out why it's not working. It's because we're better than that, and we're showing it. We are definitely winning this fight. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.